All right, let's get started. I don't want to eat away too much of your time. My name is Amy Shanerock, and I'm from GrowthZone. I am here to welcome Holly Duckworth today for the webinar, Grow Revenue Stress Less. Holly has been called a trailblazer of mindfulness for business. She is the owner of Leadership Solutions International, and for over 20 years, she's worked to change how we think about the impacts of stress and meetings. As a certified workplace mindfulness facilitator, she leads mindfulness efforts around the world. This is an interactive presentation, and Holly welcomes you to use the chat window to participate. Welcome, Holly. I'll let you get started.
Amy, thank you so much for having me. It is such an exciting time to be looking at how we do sales in our associations and how are we being mindful about that. There's no doubt the last few years have been an absolute roller coaster of great months and interesting months and challenging months as we look to grow revenue, whether you're doing that through membership recruitment or special events. If you're looking at advertising sales online or in publications, there's a lot of ways that we can be mindful as a sales professional. And as I speak to audiences and associations around the world, I've come to recognize that we can no longer ask the question, is your glass half full or is your glass half empty? Every one of us that's working in an association or a chamber of commerce or a real estate association or any of the affiliated GrowthZone industries and partners, what we know is it's time to take a breath because your glass is no longer half empty or half full. It's absolutely overflowing with things to do, on the table with so many things that we need to accomplish going forward. And this webinar is no different. As Amy and I were preparing, there's so much great content we can talk about today, but we have a few great intentions. Our first intention is to learn strategies and improve your focus to be present with your community. We want to help you to gain insights on how to ask the right questions to better quantify your potential business opportunities and set a positive mindset. But as I'm so excited to report to you today, as perfect alignment would happen, the co-author of our book, Sell More, Stress Less, 52 Tips to be a Mindful Sales Professional, my co-author, Eric Samanski, is joining us. He was available to be online, and I asked Amy and Nancy if it would be okay to bring him on. Eric is an amazing award-winning sales professional in brands you've probably done business with: Hilton, Marriott, Starwood. And most recently, he was the senior business manager for Walt Disney World Resorts. We came together to bring mindfulness and sales together. We wrote this book before the pandemic, but now it's really exploding. So I want to welcome here my co-presenter, Eric Samanski. Eric, thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, Holly, and hello, everyone. Wow, made it to the halfway point of 2022, and every day we wake up, who knows what's coming on your plate, but we're here to help in the next hour. Please do chat with us, talk through any questions that you have, and we'd love to help you grow.
Fantastic. In order to maximize the time, we've switched up the content a little bit, and we're going to just dive deep and dive right in, starting with kind of that first question. What is mindfulness? I feel so fortunate. I have transformed my career from meeting planning to associations and added this thing called mindfulness. And it's kind of a word that can be scratchy for people. They may know what it is, or they think they know what it is, or, in some cases, people are actively being mindful. But I always like to start with this as a great base point for all of us to get on the same page. And really, you got to ask yourself, is my mindful? And does mindfulness look like all of those things in your head? And if so, how can you become mindful? And maybe be a little more discerning about what you put on your plate coming out of this pandemic. Mindfulness isn't just about going to a mountaintop or sitting on an ashram or enjoying time on the beach. Mindfulness is actually becoming a mainstream movement. We were fortunate to partner with the executive producers here on the Mindfulness Movement movie. And this movement is really transformed from the founder of modern mindfulness, a man named John Kabat-Zinn. And we like to use his definition. Mindfulness is the awareness that rises through paying attention on purpose in the present moment, non-judgmentally. Or a fancy, simple way to say it is mindfulness is about being fully present. So we just ask you, take a breath, in and out, center for this webinar. Maybe flip your phone over, turn off those email warnings, and be fully present with this content, because the more you can be present here, the more you will get out of it. So we dive into what is the business case for mindful sales and why now? And Eric, here's some of the questions I would just invite you to share with our readers, our listeners, sorry.
Well, thank you. And as we're talking through what is this mindfulness thing and how does it integrate with sales, can you sell if you're busy, right? Or you're too busy? And I don't have time when I'm just feeling overwhelmed to sell anything. And I still have targets, I still have goals to achieve. So how do I do that if I'm feeling super stressed and super overwhelmed? How do I sell when I can only see some of my customers' face? I love the mask reference there. And we're still, I think, somewhat in the mask world, but so far I haven't heard anyone catching anything over Zoom. So we'll see what happens. But how do I sell when I don't believe the customer will buy from me because of a litany of reasons, right? Like, of course, I just don't even believe they're here. They don't believe me. The last 20 presentations I've made have not been successful. So this will just be another one. So how am I supposed to sell? And what if I'm afraid, or I just genuinely don't feel like this is the right time for me to sell? What do I do? And these are the things that, believe it or not, before the pandemic even was a thought in anyone's mind, most sales professionals had on their plate. And if you're looking in an executive role or a leadership role or any membership community organization, this is where some excel because they're naturals at it. Some excel because they have a plan. And what we want you to know is it's okay to be where you are in any of these situations, but business must get done. So we want you to know it's okay to feel whatever feelings you're feeling. And we're here to help make sure you know it doesn't have to be a stressful, negative experience when you think about sales, when you think about solving your customer problem, whether it's a product or a service or gaining insights in some way. Let's do this the right way. Let's be professional. Let's make sure the customer's experience is as amazing as it needs to be, or you exceed every expectation, but also your experience does not have to be negative while the customer's is positive, while the organization's financial results are positive. It doesn't work if you're being burned out and you feel that this is not going to work for you. So that business case that we put together the end of 2019 could not be more timely. And today we're going to share some of those insights with you on how to get it done when you're feeling all of those things.
Well, and I love that last question too, Eric. You know, how do you sell in times of economic uncertainty, and how perfect that GrowthZone would partner with us to provide this the day after all of the Fed interest rate changes. And certainly economic uncertainty is something we've always been dealing with. So becoming a mindful sales professional is really about being fully present in the exchange and in the partnership. And that really starts with understanding a little bit about your own brain and your own body and why mindfulness matters. And we're going to just go over this quickly because I think it's important for us to recognize and reconnect to our heart again for our associations, our chambers, and our organizations, and then kind of connecting our brain and our heart together, because it's from the collective energy of that really a mindful sales professional has the greatest success. And we know that someone who practices mindfulness actually rewires their brain and reconnects to that passion and the heart of the products and services that they sell. And it is scientifically proven that somebody who is mindful has a stronger attention system in their brain. They've rewired their amygdala. They build greater resilience. They're more connected as a result of that. Eric and I often joke that, you can meet us at a cocktail party and we're happy to talk about the weather, but we're so much more excited to talk deeper about the needs and wants of your business. And often we can get there a lot faster because our ability to connect mindfully with potential customers around the world. And what we also know is mindful leaders. Each and every one of you in your roles are a leader. Some of you may be leading teams with an official title, but you don't need an official title to be leading, because as a mindful sales professional, you're guiding that conversation. If you are actively practicing mindfulness, you're creating better employee experiences and member experiences. As a mindful person, you're driving deeper into the sales, creating rewarding, as Eric and I would say, world-class customer experiences. You're building better teams and becoming stronger leaders. So in our book, Sell More, Stress Less, we have 7 strategies, and we're going to go over all 7 of them in kind of rapid fire for you on this webinar today, but we find great value in them. And don't worry, at the end, we have a digital download of the handout, so you can get that handout. You don't have to worry about making big notes while Eric and I move through these. Our first strategy to being a mindful sales professional is the idea of setting your intention. And intention is kind of a fancy word, and really it's just saying, am I being clear about how I'm going to put my energy in motion? And in the absence of setting a daily intention, we accidentally can get in the whirlwind of stress and overwhelm and burnout. So we invite you as a mindful sales professional to daily set your intention. So Eric, I'm curious, what's your intention today?
The word optimize is always working for me. And what I want to do in my sales experience for the day is optimize the program in a way where you can get these takeaways and use them on a daily basis. So when I think about optimizing a business relationship, we're going to exceed our expectations, meet the needs of going through our business portion without avoiding all of the time wasters or things that aren't efficient. Because in today's very fast-paced, we're all doing more with less day. There's so much to do. We have to make sure we're maximizing our time. And if we're optimizing that, we're not being short and not getting our steps done. We're not taking too much time to do it. We're taking the right amount of time and optimizing the success so that we're being professional for our customers, and we're also getting those tasks done, because we can easily divert our attention and go off the beaten path. So my intention is to optimize.
So Eric, I want to invite our live listeners to share with us, now that Eric's demonstrated, what's your one-word intention? How will you put your sales growth intention out into the world today? And just feel free to type that one word into the chat box. And Eric, if you can see the chat box, I'd invite you, as those come up, to share with us what are the intentions that you're seeing. My intention today is actually the first word that came up when I asked the question, which is magnet. I am a magnet for the right and perfect partners to come into my life, and do that with joy. So magnet, be a magnet is my intention today.
Yeah, we've got some great words coming in: serve, prospect, curiosity, honest, patient, positivity, listen. These are all super great intentions. Keep them coming, and inspire those who are on the call to think in different ways as you're keeping your energy in motion.
So now that you have your intention, we move to step 2. And step 2 is the mashup again of mindfulness and sales. In the sales side, it's really the idea of meet and greet. But from your mindfulness perspective, it's centering. Take that moment to let that whirlwind of busy to get to that sales call, whether that sales call was online or in person. Centering, jump to center. Invite your energy to come fully focused into the moment. Eric, what's your tip on centering and the sales process of meet and greet?
You know, when we talk about the 7 steps of professional sales and its traditional and classic presentation, you want to start with a genuine hello to your customer. And if your very first words or actions or keystrokes that you're typing, if it's a virtual meeting, is trying to sell anything, back up the train. And this is where many of us do not take, it doesn't take long, maybe 2 to 3 minutes of just that breathing, focusing your time and centering your energy. You're going to leave those emails, the text messages, the 8 different virtual devices behind, and just be there with the person you're meeting and say hello. We often will just start with a "how are you?" and stop and listen at that point. When you hear this, and be comfortable with the silence if it takes a few seconds for the person you've just met, especially for the first time, to communicate. It may just be fine, good, okay. Well, we know there's code words out there, and fine and good usually means, as Holly will tell you, I'm losing my stuff and I can't tell you about it. But okay, so fine, you know, how are you today? How has your day been? Maybe we peel that back a little bit more, but we just want to see what's going on. And many times you'll see there's a response, and the person receiving that question, I love the genuine and authentic intentions that were written in our feed today, because if you're being genuine and asking that question, you know it. If someone asks you, how are you doing? And they're looking at you and they're not thinking about the 50 other things around them, they're just focused on you. This is that centering in your meet and greet process. And they may ask you the same thing. How are you? I'm doing really well today, or I'm not doing so great, but it's been a busy day. It hasn't been as busy as I thought. You know, let's just talk through some general things. You know, do we want to go down the path of politics or civil unrest or things that are happening? Probably not. However, you know, stay in the place with your customer to understand and just meet them where they are, and be human, be genuine, be authentic, and give yourself the opportunity to just connect with that person in an authentic way.
Well, I know we have a lot of chamber and association people here, and I think it's always important to remember, Eric, you have some great stories of entertaining clients in the hotel world where, you know, your meeting planner, your customer, your business owner may be rushing into your business, and you forget that maybe they were up early or transformed or traveled over time zones. And you always talk about, you know, make sure that you give people that opportunity, even in building your schedule. If you're touring somebody through your city or a bunch of meetings, let's just take 5 minutes and set and become fully present here. It's a great way to start. So step 3 is a powerful step. And I really like this one because it's the idea of qualifying your consumer and understanding your beliefs first. And we have an activity we call Belief 1.0, Belief 2.0 that really speaks to this idea. And I've customized this for our audience today. What you see on your screen is a little bit of an Excel spreadsheet. And you can do this certainly in a fancy way, or you can just do it as a T-chart at your desk on a piece of paper. And we certainly have this in a more formal way as if we come out and do a session for you personally. But really think about the issue or the idea. And in this particular example, in the sales process, what do I believe about myself as an association executive? And then belief 1.0, in that little box where those converge, is getting clear about that belief of where you are now. And then belief 2.0 is what you want to believe. And then that same thing is true about your customer, whether that's a trucking professional, a pharmaceutical professional, or an organization within your chamber. What do you believe about that person now? And what do you want to believe? Because it is done unto you as you believe. And sometimes accidentally those beliefs are negative. We're tired or burdened or overwhelmed. You know what? As an association executive, I believe I am 271 days from retirement. And that's not a bad thing, but how is that belief impacting your ability to connect to the customer and sell? And others may believe something completely different, but you need to take the time as a mindful sales professional to understand your belief about yourself and your customer, so you can move through the qualification step. And Eric, this is one of the steps that you are a master at. You've shared so much with me, and I want to make sure that we get a chance to deep dive, share that with our audience. Talk to us about how you take this intention setting, your centering, and now start to qualify your customers.
You know, it's if you can have a checklist and start, whether it's a physical list that you're documenting, or it's in your mind and in your brain, and you're saying to yourself, all right, I've got to get through all 5 of these steps before we can move forward. I like checklists. I like being able to have something that grounds me in the sales process. But again, we've not started selling anything in step 3 of a 7-step process. We're asking questions. And this is important for members, getting that return on engagement with a member, return on engagement with a customer, a new prospect, an existing customer, a repeat customer. If we think that it's always a carbon copy of the same thing every single time, we wouldn't need to do any of these things. And there may be an intake form or something. We do have this set up in a 1.5 pager. We try to put it all on 1 page, but what we like to do is take notes about our customer. And when we talk about the 5 qualifying steps, this is actually from a professional sales training module that I learned over 20 years ago. Here's the best thing. It applies to any situation of buying any product or service. So you can use this at work, you can use this at home. And it's sometimes not easy to remember 5 things at once. So when we talk about needs and the decision-making process, or competition, or history, or resources, we have a sentence that we like to say when we're using this, and it's new data creates happy results. So you take the first letter of each one of these 5 qualifying factors, and I just ask myself, okay, what are these again? New data creates happy results. If you can learn the 5 things, what are the needs of this particular situation? If it's your member, of course, they need education, training, networking opportunities. They want to further their or advance the cause of things in a chamber of commerce or in any sort of member-based organization, whether it's a trade organization. Companies would have this same thing. If you're making a purchase or a transaction, is this a one-time thing? Is this a one-time purchase? Do you need to solve something like right now, within the next 30 days, within the next 30 minutes? Are you in a retail environment? Are you in a business-to-business environment? What does this look like for you? Just ask, okay, so what led you to come here today? Or like, how can we help you solve this? Why are you choosing to, what are you thinking about becoming a member? What are you thinking about? That sale is kind of a secondary indicator, but let's start with the why behind that. Decision-making process is a good one, because you think about, okay, is this the decision maker that's in front of you? And you can just ask it as simple as, once you start working through these questions, there's kind of an ebb and a flow to the natural conversation that's taking place. But can you tell me about your decision-making process for this product? Or what are you thinking? Who's the decision maker? Do you have a board that's doing this? Is it just individual? Are you the person that is the decision maker, or you're just gathering information? There's a board meeting coming up, or there's different things that are coming on down. We have a budget review. A lot of those business review meetings are coming up in the 3rd quarter. We're making our decision for next year. Whatever that looks like, find out what the decision-making process is. Do you have any competition? I love this, and if you don't think there's competition, I've spoken to many different organizations over the years, and sometimes we'll get this response, oh, we don't have any competition. Well, actually you do, but this is one that can give you anxiety if you think, well, am I better than someone else that's providing the same product or service? But sometimes you're competing just for time, right? Right now, this is it. We obviously are competing for resources, meaning dollars. And the dollar amounts that could be available for spend may look like hard dollars. They may look like future dollars, committed spend. They could be bartering and in-kind trade. But when you think about the competition, it's important that you understand, one, that there is competition, And two, make sure you spend some time learning about who your competition is, what their benefits are. We do this in the marketing plan timeline on an annualized basis, typically, where we identify competition and we really do break their strengths and weaknesses out. But ask, are you thinking about, are you shopping somewhere else? Think about that in the retail environment. But in the business to business world, who's your real competition? And you may have a target list of who you think your competition is. The customer will actually determine who that is. When you ask them that question, they may give that to you straight right away. It may come out later during your meeting, but that's where that intake form and lead sheet becomes really beneficial. History is a good one. When you think about, have they ever purchased anything like this before? Is this the first time they're doing it? Have you been a member of several different organizations? And is this, you've done one or two and now you're ready to add another one? But thinking about that history piece, if you're purchasing a product, have you ever bought this before? If you're purchasing a service or an event or something to that effect, the history will help indicate. I know in the hotel business, working with room blocks and things like that to commit how much inventory we're going to give to a specific group. While that historical pickup is really a good indicator of, are they going to pick up this time? Although I will tell you, all historical norms, you can just put them out the window because the new history is being developed right now. So it's important it was important to go through this process before, but really now more than ever. And resources, just when we think about that word, do you have a budget? Love asking this question, what's your budget for this? Don't be surprised if the number in their budget is higher than what you're thinking about. Don't be surprised if it's lower. Or my favorite, they just don't know what their budget is. So you can help them, give ranges and start putting some pieces together. Are you looking for something maybe in this range, or would it be better in this range? And that way you can, oh no, that's way too much. Oh no, we have a different budget for that.
And Eric, that's the one question. Yeah, that's the one question that transformed my business, is not so much what's your budget, but what resources do you have for this experience? And by asking the question that way, it really creates a different kind of connection. And clearly we're in a different kind of economy, and in whatever industry you're in, that question, what are the resources you have, may transform the way your negotiations go. And I really appreciate how that can transform a business. I wanted to let people know that if you didn't catch that, or you're looking for that lead sheet that Eric talked about, we've created it for you. And on the screen is Eric's QR code to LinkedIn. We want this webinar to be just the beginning of a conversation with you and the associations and chambers that you serve. So feel free to click the QR code there, and it's just put in the little message when you link in with us, GrowthZone, and we're going to make sure to send you that lead sheet. It's just a free takeaway because we like to serve you right where you are. And the chat window has some great conversations here. I love what Cynthia says, really connection, connection, connection. And that's the most important thing in a relationship. And we believe new data creates happy results is a key acronym that can help you to develop that mindful, present-filled, heart and head connected connection that we know delivers better results for your organization and, of course, helps you to grow revenue. So with that, we'll move to the next step, which is step 4, which is creating a vision and presentation. On the mindfulness side, what you visualize, you actualize. And so many sales actually get thwarted before they even start because we're visualizing the, oh, I'm not enough, oh, I'm going to cost too much, oh, I'm not a fit. And let us know in the chat box. Do you have a vision board? And if you have a vision board, do you have a vision board specifically for your sales process? And I mean, it could be an old school cutout vision board, or it could be a digital vision board. But one of the things we like to do is really work with organizations to create a vision board, because what you visualize, you actualize. And there's no greater example of that than what are you presenting to your prospect? Eric, talk about what you present to your prospects that gives you a mindful sales advantage.
Okay, so you've had a chance to set your intention, put your energy in motion. You've got just great meet and greet. You've got your qualifying steps completed, or at least in a position where you feel like, okay, I've got a good understanding of what's happening. This is where you can start presenting your product. This is where I would consider the very first selling part of the 7 steps, and it's landing right in the middle on step 4. But when you think about a presentation, if this is virtual, if this is in real life, I know we have many of those variables going right now. Is it a hybrid meeting with some in person, some virtual? We can connect with teams of many different ways. If you were, let's just assume for a second, you can sell any product or service. I use a car analogy here, and it's, often the most, you hear about a car salesman and it's like, oh, I shudder when I think about that. I think the car sales industry has done a great job of changing a lot of those historical perceptions, but this would be your test drive. So if you have a product or a service, if your membership, this is inviting them in to experience what this looks like and talk about it, give a proposal, speak to the vision of what you want the customer to actually receive. So if they have a chance to get a 30 to 60-second video, if you have some great marketing collateral with your imagery, this is your website. This is different ways you're inviting in the conversation that this is what our product or service looks like. So I'm giving you this presentation, and I want you to know we're going to be able to deliver on the things that we're not over-promising and under-delivering. Here's some of the great benefits and the impact it's going to have on your experience. So when we talk about presentation, this is before you ever get into that test drive. Sorry, in the morning, I'm already anticipating the next step, but I want to be fully present in step 4. Step 5, our demonstration, that's the test drive. Step 4, this is where before we take that test drive, we want to engage and have some conversation. We want to be able to, if this was a car dealership, again, this is the walk around the vehicle. This is talking into the showroom, what these features look like, and making sure before we get behind the wheel and take this for a test drive, I want you to notice, let's sit down, let's walk around the vehicle, let's look at if it's trunk space or whatever the different parts that you now know. Someone's looking for a truck because they work in a business that needs to tow something. Somebody's looking for a sports car. Someone's looking for a convertible. Someone just needs to get by every single day and not pay $20 a gallon for gas, right? So learning these things that, whether it's a toaster or a car or a membership sales, whether it's non-dues revenue or getting ancillary things into the mix, that presentation is what you're going to present before you ever have the customer experience the product for itself. So make sure you don't skip this step. Often you do, like I almost did, jump right into the test drive or ask for the close. Notice we haven't even talked about closing the sale yet. We've just learned all of that great qualifying information. And if we believe that our customer wants to fully understand that there's no assumptions where they think they know what's happening and we think we know what's happening, but we really haven't talked about it. So once we get to the paperwork part and we sign for it, we realize we don't know what each other wants, and we're going to set ourselves up for failure. This presentation is just a great time for you to walk through that proposal stage. And it's awesome.
Eric, Polly says in the chat, we have to remember that people buy from people. And so this is a great opportunity to pause. And, we use questions in this creating a vision segment of, what does the best sale look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And while those questions might sound a little interesting, some question just like, what does a sale feel like can be very different across industries. I know that, perhaps you represent the pharmaceutical industry. That might be an industry that isn't so much huggy and touchy, but you might be selling into maybe, a small city chamber where everybody is hugging. And again, all of this is rebooted since the pandemic. So this is a time to really pause and say, what does a great sale look like? What's it feel like? What's it sound like? And what do you believe about it? And that brings us to step 5, which is that step Eric was excited about, the affirmation and demonstration phase. And on the mindfulness side, this really comes from wiring your positive mindset and writing an affirmation that you can repeat to yourself over and over again to connect your head and your heart. I am the right salesperson at the right time with the right and perfect product might be a great example of that. I represent an association that provides powerful education and networking, and my members are thrilled to make the investment. And as you set that positive affirmation for yourself each and every day through that intention that you wrote, developing it into an affirmation, then you get to demonstrate your product, service, membership, or the event that you're creating with such great pride and enthusiasm. So let's talk about demonstration, Eric.
Yeah, and I saw a great question in the chat from Marianne about balancing too much time. And time is certainly coming up too from Courtney, and just speaking about how the competition, you're competing with attention and time many times, there's no question. But when you hear that feedback that you're spending too much time getting to know the person, maybe you start putting a time, like an internal clock, or you're checking your watch a little bit, not in an impolite way, but let's just say it's taking you 3 months to get to know someone in the meet and greet stage. Maybe we shorten that up a little bit. In large sales, when we're talking over, I would say 10,000, over 100,000, let's keep adding commas, right? Over $1 million, over $10 million. The larger the dollar amount in any sales transaction, typically you're going to extend the meeting and greeting and relationship build time. This is when you're going to have the person you're looking to do business with really want you to prove before they give you that 10,000, 100,000, million, 10 million, whatever that dollar amount is. The larger that number goes up, oftentimes the sales cycle in timeline increases. If your product sales is in the $1, $50, $100, $200, $300, there's a relationship between how much time you're spending on getting to know someone, but maybe you don't need their whole life story. Maybe because the purchase price is $300 or $500 in that particular transaction, if it takes you 6 months every time you need to convert that sale of $500, you're more than likely not going to hit your budget numbers. So what you want to do is say, if you're getting that feedback, first and foremost, thank the person who gave you that feedback, because feedback is truly a gift. Oftentimes you're not being given direct feedback like that, and you're going to be given an opportunity. You go home and you wonder, why is my maybe teammate or leader not happy with me right now? Let's have these conversations. But if you're thinking about time really in this economy, I think this is the most appropriate time for you to say, as a professional to another person, your prospective customer who's a professional, I know we're all being asked to do more with less right now. So can we spend some time right now, shift the conversation to the business, get past meet and greet? And this is often a time when courage, it starts taking place, your fear of, I just want to get to know them. I want them to like me. I want them to like our product. I had a bad experience selling my last 3 products, and I don't want that to happen again. Well, at some point you want to respect your time so that you can achieve your business goals, your personal goals of achieving success, and just put it out there to talk to other professionals and peers, like, hey, I'm getting this feedback. Have you ever been given this feedback? How do you keep the conversation focused on business? And I think for me, before I really was taught this, because some of these things you just don't grow up knowing, it's not taught in school. Someone had to teach me that here's some skills that you want to keep the conversation on track. And those boundaries are healthy. Those boundaries keep you from sending emails at 1 o'clock in the morning. They let you work your scheduled day and you focus on getting the business done. You can schedule that personal time after your business meeting if you really want to get to know that person. But when we're doing business, put a little clock down and see if you can stick to it. It's sort of like, all right,
So
if I
Eric,
need to
speaking of
work on
clock
that.
and sticking to the clock, I'm going to move us to the next one, just by also saying one of the things that is a best practice in our company, and one of the things that I think you do great, and might be a tip for folks out there too, is at the beginning of a meeting, finding a way to confirm. As I understand it, we have 30 minutes scheduled for our demonstration step today, and confirming that beforehand. So knowing we only have 60 minutes with our audience today, I want to make sure we get to all of the steps. And step 6 is where sometimes the fun begins. And we like to call this the movement and trial close step. It's kind of what I just did with you there, Eric. Move your body, move your mind, and starting to ask key questions that invite movement towards a close. And, in the book, every week we give sales teams one tip. And this, believe it or not, is already week 24 of the year. And I just thought I would share quickly in terms of the movement aspect. This week's affirmation couldn't be more perfect. It says, move forward with mutually agreeable next steps. As a mindful sales professional, make client decisions together. It's not just about price, but it applies to every aspect of the sale. And our affirmation is, I trust my intuition and ask clients for the sale, and I ask them for mutually agreeable next step as we move forward together. Eric, why are you so passionate about this step?
Yeah, and those mutually agreeable next steps at the beginning of a meeting with a customer is so good. Now, if you're setting up an appointment and you have 30 minutes scheduled, sometimes you'll be done in 12, 15 minutes, and you don't have to drag out those extra time lines. But when we talk about trial close, before we get to the point where I'm asking for the sale, this is actually a great trial close. Setting up a time boundary at the beginning of a meeting, establishing those mutually agreeable next steps, like the goal of our time together today. So we have our meeting today, and I want to make sure that we're answering all of your questions, and you're going to have your demonstration. I don't want to skip that completely, because you do want to take that test drive. You do want to invite the customer to give the free sample if you're at the food court and taste the product, experience whatever that service looks like, and have a chance to go see what that looks like. But a trial close happens kind of throughout the entire process. Actually getting an appointment with a customer is kind of a trial close in and of itself. It gives you an opportunity to convert the sale. But asking, so we talked about you're a member of 4 other organizations right now, and we're considering, we'd love for you to join ours. That would be a 5th. We have this set meeting. This is how we would engage with you throughout the week or throughout the year. And this is how we're going to make sure that we can maximize your time. Or I'm not a member of anything. I've never joined a chamber before. I've never bought this product before. I've never bought this service before. I've never been a member of a professional organization before. How do I engage with that? Because just writing the check, or if my company's sponsoring that, how do I even know what I'm supposed to do? So ask the question, would you consider coming to our next meeting and seeing what that looks like? If that meeting you find insightful, would you consider joining us? That's a trial close. You're not saying, all right, I'm ready for you. Before you come to our meeting, before you can have a free sample, before you have to buy. Some products are like that, when you're making significant purchases, especially, and the product isn't in front of you, it has to be built. And we have supply chain things happening right now, but put little miniature closes or trial closes in. It does move the process along. Thank you, Holly.
Fantastic, Eric. And there's so much great content here. We wish we had more time with you. Number 7, trial step number 7 is gratitude and follow-up. What we are thankful for increases. As a mindful sales professional, are you making it a regular, recurring practice in your life? First, to thank yourself for the courage, the resilience, the dedication it takes to continuously be learning about your product, continuously be prospecting, utilizing these steps, and moving the sales cycle forward. That was key. Thanking yourself first, especially right now, build your resilience muscle. And then simultaneously be thanking your customers. And this isn't just something that we do on Thanksgiving, if you happen to celebrate the Thanksgiving holiday, but something that you're doing on an ongoing basis. Gratitude fuels future sales. That's the mindfulness step that you want to be bringing throughout your sales process. But then it also requires follow-up. And every organization is different. Sometimes a salesperson is also the services person, but in more cases than not now, that's getting transitioned off to perhaps a member care representative or someone on the sales services side. But that doesn't delegate that gratitude piece to them. A great example, we recently are in the process of putting solar panels on our home. We moved through this sales process with the individual, and the day of our installation, we didn't expect to see the salesman, but he came out, handwritten thank you note, business cards, thanked us for his business. And as a result of the entire process, but specifically his dedication to coming back after the sale was done, really made a great impression on our sales process. Eric, what are some great examples of gratitude and follow-up that you think our audience would find benefit in?
Yeah, and I can only imagine gratitude as a general, idea in times of success. Everyone's always so thankful, like, oh, thank you, we love this, oh, we love this. Well, gratitude as a general rule can exist even when the sale doesn't happen. So if you're a salesperson who loses the sale, thank your customer for the opportunity to engage with them. That is a practice run on the next sales opportunity that you have. And you think about sports analogies, baseball players that strike out 7 times out of 10 are some of the most successful players in the game. Doesn't always turn into a grand slam home run. So give yourself the opportunity to thank yourself for having the courage to put things together. So if we've followed the timeline from the intention of setting a professional experience all the way through to closing the sale and follow-up, we want to make sure you're grateful for the customer. And I've spent months preparing for client meetings, done so much work. And I think in American culture, perhaps this is a Western thing, the expectation is, well, I've done all of this stuff. Now I need the customer to thank me because they should thank me. I worked my butt off for this. Well, let's flip the script on that. I've worked for organizations that you put all the time, energy, and effort into, but you thank the customer for taking the time to experience what you just went through with them because they didn't have to. There is competition. You are competing against other businesses or services. You're competing against time more than ever. So being grateful for the opportunity to present is just a huge thing. And when we say follow up, we're also saying follow through. Remember earlier in the presentation, we don't want to overpromise and underdeliver. We want to make sure we are saying that if you're going to experience the product in this way, that not only are you delivering on that, but as a salesperson, and your title may not be sales, but you are a sales representative of whatever organization you belong to. Make sure that you're checking in to follow up on your internal and external partnerships, that promise is being delivered upon. And then guess what? The cycle repeats itself. It is a never-ending cycle. You go back to the beginning and the sales process continues. So it's just amazing. And I may have to step away in just a few minutes. So I just want to say thank you again. And I know, Holly, this is just the beginning of a conversation. The conversation doesn't stop just because our timeline ends. Please do continue reaching out. We look forward to being in relationship with you. And if you have any more questions, please reach out to us.
Eric, thank you so much for your wisdom, your mindfulness, and for co-authoring the book with me. It's such a joy to see the results of this work as our audience members actually activate these practices in their businesses. And I know, Eric, you have another call to jump to, so we'll say thank you.
And thank you as well. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here, and I want to thank everyone for your
So
time today.
I'm sticking around. On your screen, you have a QR code, and I mentioned in the chat and here on the screen that if you would find benefit in a handout that you could share with your staff or your teams, we have created this. We call this the Mindful Mini Poster, Mindful Handout. This QR code, if you utilize it, will give you a complimentary digital download of the notes of this particular session. And now I just want to open the question box. If you have questions, as Eric said so eloquently, we want to invite you to continue this conversation with us. And these are our QR codes personally on LinkedIn. Feel free to utilize those or find us on LinkedIn. And if you didn't get the QR code for the handout, I'll put it back as well. But we want to take your questions and serve you because we know that you taking care of yourself as an association executive and sales professional means a lot to the work that you do and the industries that you serve. So with that, I will just take questions in the chat box and want to thank most genuinely. Can the website be put into the chat? Cynthia, I will make sure to download the notes, and we'll make sure that our friends at GrowthZone can put this attachment also in the post show notes, because we are recording this as well. So we will make sure that you get it, or again, send myself or Eric a note, and we'll make sure that you get this, as well as any other questions that you might have. We want to take a moment to thank our friends at GrowthZone for providing these educational opportunities for everyone to continue their learning as well. Amy's got our link there. Leadership Solutions, intl.com is our company website. And if you are interested in having us come speak to your group or do a deeper dive into visioning or demonstration or presentation, if you email me today, we're going to do some special pricing as a GrowthZone partner. We have a few dates left in Q3 and Q4. So with that, I'm going to pass this back to Amy. Grow your revenue, stress less, partner with GrowthZone, partner with us, and make 2022 and 2023 your best growth year ever.
Thank you, Holly, and thank you to Eric too. I know he jumped off, but that was great. Even just listening to your voices is just calming. Like, I was thinking about that as Eric was speaking. He just has this very calm voice. Both of you do. So thank you both. Thank you all for attending today. If you're not familiar with GrowthZone, as Holly said, you're welcome to go to our website, growthzone.com. You can request a demo, watch an interactive tour. We're happy to answer any questions. There you go, Holly just flipped the slide for me. And if you've enjoyed this webinar, we have another one next month. Sherry Pash will be joining us, and she is literally going to jump into LinkedIn. She's going to log into LinkedIn and show you how to maximize member engagement and strategic recruiting on LinkedIn. So watch for an email inviting you to that. It's in mid-July, I think the 14th. So thank you all. Thank you again, Holly and Eric, and all of you for joining us today. Have a great day.